New developments in the ongoing discussions over whether the ISIS militants actually pose a direct threat to us here at home. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Martin Dempsey, saying that he does not recommend airstrikes on ISIS in Syria at this time because there is no sign that the Islamic State is engaged in, quote, active plotting against the homeland. So it is different, he says, than that which we see in Yemen from ACAP, he refers to there. So I am joined now by Rear Admiral John Kirby, the Pentagon press secretary, who joins us now. Good morning, sir. Very good to have you with us today.
Thanks. Thank you.
I want to play another recent soundbite from the general and get your thoughts on what many are calling a discrepancy in tone. Let's listen to this one.
Sure.
This is an organization that has an apocalyptic end-of-days strategic vision, and which will eventually have to be defeated. To your question, can they be defeated without addressing that part of their organization which resides in Syria? The answer is no. That will have to be addressed on both sides of what is essentially at this point a non-existent border.
Many are saying that his comments over the weekend were a pullback from that much stronger statement. What do you say about that?
Well, I think there was a lot more to what General Dempsey said in that clip that you provided there in that press conference last week. I mean, he went on to say that that the approach to ISIL in Syria and around the region needs to be taken on a more multilateral approach, that airstrikes alone are not going to solve the threat that they pose. It's not going to completely eliminate the challenge that they represent. And I think we all agree with that. But ISIL is a growing network. They're well-resourced. They're well-led. They do pose a regional threat. And to the degree that they are supported by foreign fighters from nations all over the world, including the United States, there is an immediacy to the threat that they pose. While I think the general feeling is they're not capable of a 9/11-like style attack on the homeland right now, they certainly could, through the use of foreign fighters, impact Western targets, including American targets, if they so choose. So it's a concern that we all share.
Well, then don't you have to stop them where they are now to prevent that? I mean, everything that we've heard from intel sources in Congress, from Mike McCall, from Mike Rogers, they very much believe that this group needs to be stopped where they are now so that that connection to any foreign sources can never, ever happen to hurt us here at home.
And we're working on that, Martha. We're working very hard on that. We are supporting the Iraqi security forces and the Kurdish forces in their fight against ISIL inside Iraq. As the White House has made clear, that we're not going to hold geographic boundaries to limit what we need to do to protect American citizens abroad or here at home. So, I mean, there's a lot of energy being put into this, but we are very much directly challenging this threat that they pose. I would also say that it's important that it's not just the United States involved here. Iraqi security forces are fighting them, Kurdish forces, as I talked about, and international partners are coming together, certainly to try to help alleviate the humanitarian crisis that these terrorists are causing inside Iraq. We're all very focused on this challenge.
I understand, and I want to ask you about the coalition in just a minute, but just one more question on this, what's being perceived as this discrepancy in these comments. Were they the result of any pushback from the White House saying that the Pentagon needed to tone down the way that they were discussing the urgency of the threat here at home from ISIS?
There's been no direction from the White House or anybody else to tone down the way we're speaking about ISIL, and I think we've all been very consistently talking about the very real and growing threat that ISIL poses.
All right, so let's talk about this coalition a bit. What work is being done that you're aware of to bring together Jordan, Turkey, Bahrain, the other countries who should feel, even more imminently threatened by this group?
I think Iraq's neighbors do feel the pressure that this group is posing, and I think they understand the threat. Certainly, Iran has equities in Iraq, and Syria has equities. Of course, as General Dempsey noticed, the border is almost non-existent. Turkey as well. The neighboring countries are aware of this, and I think they are beginning to take this threat even more seriously. More importantly, actually as importantly, we have other of our allies and partners, many of them in Europe, that are stepping forward, like Albania last week, like the United Kingdom, France, Australia, stepping forward to try to help contribute to some of these humanitarian missions that are ongoing as well.
So how far away do you think we are from potential airstrikes? Coordinated with some of these potential coalition partners, are we moving assets into place to carry out such strikes?
Well, you know, we're not going to talk about ongoing operations, Martha, and we don't telegraph our punches here at the Pentagon. Our job is to be prepared and ready across the whole spectrum, and all I can tell you is that we're going to do that. The focus right now from an airstrike perspective is very much inside the country of Iraq.
All right. I do want to ask you one more question because there's so many different hotspots in the world, and I want to. You made some very strong statements about Russia and the movement that they have made in these tanks across the border into Ukraine. In fact, you said that Russia must remove vehicles and personnel immediately. How are we doing with that?
Those vehicles and those forces are still inside eastern Ukraine. That's our assessment. This has been a continual problem. We've seen Russia continue to provide weapons systems, very advanced weapons systems across the border into Ukraine, supporting the separatists that are there. And it's a problem that persists, and it's a problem, frankly, that Russia needs to take accountability for and stop the provision of those supplies and that support. We've made it very clear they're doing nothing but destabilizing the situation in Ukraine. And to the degree there's humanitarian needs, it's because they've caused it. Not to mention they still have thousands of troops arrayed along the southeast border with Ukraine. Troops that are very capable, very ready across the spectrum of military operations, and they keep adding to that. So the tension's just rising. The support for the separatists continues, and as we've said, it needs to stop.
Very quickly, if you can, the release of this other journalist hostage. How do you read that in terms of this group wanting to release his? Is there a message in that?
It's hard to divine a message in that specifically, Martha. I mean, I don't know enough about that particular case to give you a sort of a grander philosophy on it. I mean, certainly we're happy for the family, but our policy on paying ransom here in the United States is that we don't do it.
Understood. Rear Admiral John Kirby, thank you very much for being here. Great to talk to you, sir.
My pleasure. Thanks.